Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Crush Live Call-ins. I am your host here, Bart Hansen, and we are live. The number is 323-348-1281. 323-348-1281. I am in the live chat here, and I'm going to have to start this over because I realized I didn't record this on the side. So give me 1 second here as I write out the tweet.
All right.
Why do people keep... God, this thing is just killing me every time. I mute people, and then they somehow come back. Mute! 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 Lock!
Conference locked.
God damn. All right. youtube.com/c/crush live poker. All right. Let me turn my recording on and we will get going. Again, I am in the live chat here as well. So let's do this. Alrighty. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Crush Live Call-ins. I am your host here, Bart Hansen, and the number is 323-348-1281. 323-348-1281 is the number. It's very, very unlikely that you're going to get through because I have 8 callers in queue right now. So if you're hearing me and you're on the line, you are on mute. So just bear with me. We're going to try to truck through this as fast as possible. I want to start with someone that actually sent a message to me on the Crush Live Poker forums, and they wanted to basically get in with a hand. So let's start. I think this is the guy, and if it's not the guy, we're going to go, the guy will be second, but it's 818 area code. 818620, you're up first. Are you the one that contacted me on the forums today?
I did.
You did? Okay, who is this?
I'm Ramon.
Hi, Ramon. How's it going?
Great so far. How are you?
Good. So you got a hand for us?
I have an interesting spot, live cash game 2-5 at the Venetian.
Yep. Okay.
I played there for about 2 hours, and I'm playing against a guy who was at the table for about 90 minutes.
Okay.
Looked for me like a tied rack. He knew all the dealers knew him.
Okay.
And so, yeah, looks like a regular player.
Okay. How
I've
deep are
seen
you
him.
guys?
Oh, now I have to check out my.
All right,
Wait
Ramon,
a
we're going to
second.
have to move this along. Come on. I got 10 calls. I know this is your first time, but how deep are you guys?
He has about 950,
Okay.
and I have about 680.
Okay. So 680 effective at 2.5.
Yes.
Okay.
So he opens up $20 under the gun,
Okay.
and he played the last 90 minutes very straightforward. I've seen him raising 2-3 times, but never conti-betting the flop, always folding.
Okay.
Or check folding. When he looked like when he doesn't hit the flop, he just check folds and everything's fine.
Okay.
So in this hand, he opened 20 under the gun.
Mhm.
We had a calling station in middle position who called the $20.
Mhm.
I was in the cutoff
Yep.
and called with pocket 8,
Okay.
8 of clubs, 8 of hearts. Small blind, another calling station called, and the big blind called.
So you're 5
So
ways.
we have 5 ways. We
Okay.
go to the flop, and we have $100 in the pot.
Okay.
The flop comes king of diamond, 8 of spades, 3 of clubs.
Okay.
So perfect flop for me.
Mhm.
Small blind called, small blind checked, big blind checked, and the under the gun opener now makes a $50 bet.
Okay.
So the middle position calling station folded, and I called in position.
So you
I
decide
don't
here to
see.
just you just decide here to flat here. It's a rainbow board,
Yeah,
king 8-3. You flat
yeah.
here from the cutoff. Okay.
I see no reason to raise.
I mean,
And the small blind. Yeah,
it's not a really a draw heavy board, obviously, and I mean you can certainly
right.
call here for balance. I mean, raising looks strong. I will say though that depending on the type of player that you're up against, I mean he is c betting into four people, and if you raise right away, you don't rep that much. This is a discussion that David Tuckman and I always whatever disagree, or we always bring it up. Like you don't have any two pair here in your range, so if you do raise, you rep super thin, and you don't have all that much. So I feel like on the surface, yeah, you flatten. I think that's okay too. But if you look at your effective stack and you just bump it up to like say like 120, the guy is just going to check call you the whole way down with a king, as opposed to you suddenly shoving the river or raising the turn. If the turn is some sort of Broadway card where now you can have two pair or you play a set like everybody else, that would be the argument for fast playing here.
Okay. Yeah,
So
makes sense.
you call, did everyone else fold?
The small blind calls
Okay.
and the big blind folded.
Okay.
So we have a pot of $250 now.
Mhm.
Now comes a turn, another king.
Okay.
King of hearts, so no flush draw.
Yep.
And now the guy under the gun, the small blind checks, and the guy under the gun checks to me.
Okay.
And I bet 140 because I have about 400 behind.
Yep.
I think it's good bet because I have about 80% of the pot size behind
Okay.
for shoving on the river.
Yep.
The small blind folds and the under the gun player calls.
So the under the gun calls.
Yes.
Okay.
After continuation betting the flop, he check calls the turn,
Yep.
but it's kind of a fishy, strange line when a rec player is doing this.
It's
And now
it,
comes
I mean, he could have aces or something like that, and he doesn't believe you. I mean, it's probably pretty rare for him to check ace king. I thought you were going to say the under the gun guy checked, you bet, and the small blind called. But there's a possibility that he could have like a hand like queens or aces. Like I said, it would sort of be surprising if he had like ace king or something like that. But so what happened on the river?
so we have a pot of $530.
Mm-hmm.
I have about 400 behind,
Yep.
and in the river comes an ace,
Okay.
and now he leads out for $340.
Yeah, I think that there's a very good chance that you're beat here. Now, I'm not going to say that I mean, it looks like pocket aces to me. It really does. I mean, if this is the type of player that might have pocket threes here from an open from up front, there are three combinations of pocket threes. There are three combinations of pocket aces. I don't really think he has ace king all that much. I don't know. You didn't say if the king brought a backdoor flush draw in. Do you remember if it did?
No, no,
It
no.
didn't. It was
It's
totally
completely
rainbow.
Yeah.
So, with this type of run out here, right, there are 8 combinations of ace king, right? Because there's 2 kings and an ace out on the board. 3 combinations of pocket aces, and then maybe he has 1 combo of pocket threes. So let's say that maybe he does this 25% of the time with ace king. That's 2 combos of 2 combos of ace king. 3 combos of pocket aces, that's 5, and then maybe 1 combo of pocket threes. I think you're out here by 5-1. Listen, like, it's easy for us to say, oh, like in theory we're gonna fold here when he bets 300, getting 3-1, but certainly not. It's never gonna be a raise. Let's just say that. I think that you're probably beat here, and if you think he's really straightforward, then you can make a crazy fold.
The question I had about his hand is, I mean, pocket three is pretty much the bottom of his open raising range under the gun.
Yep.
Nine-handed, I
Yep.
think.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that ace king and pocket three maybe would have check raised the turn.
Yeah, I tend to agree.
king.
I mean, I was just doing it very, very liberally. So what did you end up doing?
I folded.
And did he ever show you?
No.
I don't think it's a bad fold. Honestly, I really don't think it's a bad fold. I think that you're probably not good here 1 out of 3 times. I'm not.
What I think, you uploaded another podcast earlier, and you talked about when somebody, especially a regular player, does not push all in on the river, but gives you the chance to left some dollars behind.
Mhm.
That looks very strong. Because
Well,
when
I said that
somebody
that's a
shoves all
technique
in,
that I actually use to get a call. That I
yeah,
won't. I'll bet a little bit less than all in, and I find the frequency of me getting called with my value hands is a little bit larger than going all in.
and
But
that's
I just don't
what.
see you really beating much here. You know what I mean? I mean, it would be beating a bluff. Like you said, pocket threes is such a weird open from there, and to call it, to play it that way. I think he plays pocket aces like this the whole time. Yes, there probably would be some frequency of check raising with ace king and pocket threes, but I think you're beat. But you never got to see, right?
No,
Oh,
I
well,
have never seen it.
I
I
guess
just
we'll
wanted
never
to have
know.
your opinion
We'll never know, but
because
I
I
think it's a
just
good
made
fold.
the fold.
Okay?
Okay.
All right, cool. Thanks for
Yeah.
the call.
Thanks.
You got it. All right, awesome. All right, guys. 480, you're up next.
Hey Bart, how you doing? It's Andrew.
Good. How's it going? By the way, I realize I'm going to just do an intro over here on this call for YouTube, but I realize for some reason that it looks like I'm on a little bit of a delay. I'm about 2 seconds behind in the live stream. Sorry, I can't really do anything about that at the moment, so we'll just truck through. All right, 480, you're up next.
Yeah, hey Bart, it's Andrew from Arizona.
Hi, Andrew.
How's it going?
Good.
Good. I got a limp pot for you. So
Ooh.
that was pretty interesting from Reno.
Okay, limp pot
I
from
was up
Reno.
there a few weeks
2-5?
ago. Yeah, I'm in a 2-5 game.
Okay.
The small blind is got about 2K. I got about 1,000, and the button has about 500. That's the relevant stacks.
Okay.
We got 3 limpers, including the button, and myself in the small. I'm in the big blind, and the small blind is also in the pot. So it's small blind, big blind, and button.
Okay.
That in the pot. So 5 ways. I have 10-7 with the 10 of clubs and the 7 of spades. I check. So 5 ways to the flop. Flop comes 7-7-5 with 2 clubs.
7-7-5 with 2 clubs. Okay.
Yep. I have 10-7 with the 10 of clubs.
Okay.
Small blind, he's been really loose, chasing a lot of draws, and a little bit trappy and tricky as well. But he knows where he's at. He seems to play pretty well post flop, but is just too loose pre flop. And the button is an older guy. He was playing a lot of pots, but not really aggressive.
Okay.
So anyway, it's checked to me in the big blind. I bet out 20 into about 22 or 3 with the drop, with the rake.
Mm-hmm.
It gets forward to the button, and he makes it 70, and the small blind calls.
Okay. I know you said it in the beginning, but let's just do a review. The effective stacks are 500, 1K, and 2K, and who has what again?
I have 1K. The small blind has 2K, and the button has 500.
Okay. So the button, who with a $500 stack, he's the one that raises it to 70, right?
Yes, to
Okay.
70.
But the small blind now calls.
Yes.
Okay. So, I mean, there's a two-tone board out there. There are straight draws and things like that. I mean, you don't want to just totally overplay your hand. I mean, I will say that it's sort of interesting because you do outkick some of the sevens unless it's A7 from the button. I mean, do you think that the button would ever raise with a draw here?
Yeah, at the time I didn't think so, but obviously I played with him a while longer, and I think he is capable of doing that, or overplaying a little bit. It is possible, but I also think I'll get the value from the sevens anyway, likely, if he's got a worse 7. So, and I also, don't want to overplay my hand and get it in against the guy that might have flopped the nuts or slow playing.
No, I like a call here. I'm assuming that's what you did, right?
Yeah, I just called the 50 more, and we saw it 3 ways to the turn.
Yep.
About 230, 235 in the pot, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
The turn is a pretty bad card. It's a 6 of clubs.
Okay.
So obviously it fills a lot of straights.
Flushes.
Fills any flush.
Yep.
7-6, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
So the small blind checks after, he stared the board for a while and checked. And then I checked, and the button now bets 150.
Okay.
And the small blind kind of tanks and calls.
I would fold now. Honestly,
Okay.
I would fold now. I mean, you're either going to be beaten to a flush or most. I mean, the only thing that I mean, listen. I mean, the only thing that I mean, you're drawing to obviously a full house in the form of like a 10 coming, but or a 7 coming, but that's really the only like sort of live kicker, and there isn't a whole. I mean, people aren't going to go crazy like they know it. There's a straight out there and there's a flush out there. Really, what do
Or a
you?
6, right?
Yeah, I mean, what
Or
are
a
you
6.
ahead? What are you ahead of? Yeah, but I'm saying like a full house that comes that doesn't double pair the board. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, yeah, you
Yeah.
could win with a 5. This is the problem with like drawing out a full house with trips as opposed to a set. It's not the board pairing. I mean, yes, it's the board pairing, but it's going to be double paired unless you hit your kicker. So that's why you can fill towards a set, and it doesn't look as scary to your opponents that have completed a draw already, right? Because it's seven,
Okay.
seven,
Yeah.
5, 6, right? So, I mean, all things considered, I would just fold right now. I just don't see what you're really ahead of here. I mean, you're getting the pot's 530 and it's 150 for you to call, so you're getting maybe 3.5 to 1 here. And you could make a case that you've got 9 or 10 outs, maybe, but if someone's already outkicked you, if someone already has a 7 and the board double pairs, you're just chopping, right? So
Yeah.
I think I would just fold right now.
I think having the overcard helps though, right? And I have a club. Not that I could have the best club out there, but I felt like
It's
I could play
possible, but
properly
how?
on the
But
river.
if someone has a flush right now on 7, 7, 5, 6, like what flushes are they gonna have? That's not a straight flush, an 8, 9 of clubs that you're gonna be able to beat if another club comes out, like 3, 4 of
Sure. Well,
clubs. It's a pretty big stretch, right?
then he would have had to raise with a straight flush draw, and yeah, it's possible. Yeah. Well, anyway, I mean, I'll tell you what happened anyway.
Hmm.
I thought it was interesting. I did call thinking I had some outs to load up.
Yeah.
Maybe the action could shut down. I don't know. I did call, and the river comes the 9 of clubs, which I thought was pretty interesting.
So it's
obviously, my
7,
flush
7,
is kind of
5, 6, 9 with the 7, 5, 6, and 9 of clubs. Is there a one liner to a straight flush out there, right?
yes,
Yeah.
there is.
Okay.
Yes.
Hmm.
So obviously, my club is crap in my opinion. If someone bets,
Yeah.
it might get checked there. I could maybe somehow win if someone had a low flush. I just thought it was interesting. The small blind kind of stares at the board and bets out like 250, and I folded pretty quickly. And then the button kind of folded and shrugged. I think he raised with a straight draw and made a straight. That's kind of the impression he got that I got. So and the guy tabled 8-3 of clubs. So I just thought it was interesting. More important, I think the turn is the interesting street.
Yeah, it's interesting that my buddy Stay in School in the live chat saying if there was a card to bluff, this would be one of them. Talking about advanced play and using a blocker, you've got the 10 of clubs in your hand. But the problem here, though, is that, yeah, if you knew the guy had 8-3 of clubs, okay. Well, actually, the guy's got 8-3 of clubs, he's got a straight flush. It doesn't matter. But I'm not in the business of trying to blow somebody off the nut flush or a full house on a paired board trying to represent a straight flush, obviously. But I think you are right on, and I think my initial reaction is that the turn itself is a fold. That was my initial reaction, right?
Yeah, I actually, I was in third place at the on the turn, but I could have improved to a flush as well. I had more outs than I thought.
Yeah, but
I think I had a straight.
Just range of hand stuff, though. You know what I mean? Like I think that the guy in the button's going to end up a lot of times when he raises the flop and bets again on the turn with a made hand, ace-7. An ace-7 might slow down. I'm even surprised that he bet a straight on the turn, but he probably didn't think he could improve. Ace-7 might check through, or he's got the nut flush. So that's the problem. You've got somebody else in there with
what if we had like 8? What if we had like 8-7 with the 8 of clubs in the turn? Do you just call and then just bet the river?
8-7 with the 8 of clubs on the turn. I mean, honestly, you're still only at 2 outs. I mean, there's no real reason, there's no real way that a guy can really have a lower flush that you would be drawing at. I mean, yeah, you're drawing at 2 outs. I don't know. I mean, if the pot odds were enough where you think you could call and then chop possibly, but I don't know if it makes that much of a difference though.
And my last question is just, at what point do you re-raise the on the flop? You have to have king 7, queen 7, ace 7. At what point do you put in a bet and just, if he's got a cooler hand?
I think I would probably 3-bet ace 7, I think some of the time. But I don't think it's terrible to just call. I think I would 3-bet pocket 5s for sure, and I would probably 3-bet 7-5 small. on the flop.
All right.
Okay?
Great. I appreciate it.
All right,
Okay.
take it easy.
Thanks a lot.
All right.
Okay. Bye-bye.
All right, we're going to try to go in order here. Like I said, lots of calls here. And I'm going to go to 707 332. You are up next.
What up, Bart? Master T.
Hey, what's up, Master P?
Yeah. So, interesting hand I played the other night. Kind of think I fucked up the river. Well, I know I fucked up the river, but so basically it's 1-3, 300 effective. I cover. Villain's a 50, mid-50s white guy. He's a tag. He's decent. I would say maybe he's a break-even player. Can hand read a little bit, but he really respects my game. Tries to stay out of my way for sure. So his big mistake is he folds far too often against me.
Okay.
So he either plays a little bit too fit or fold, or folds to double barrels, pretty consistently.
Okay.
So I got ace king under the gun. I decided to open 15, which is kind of my standard for early position in that game. Also, I'm somewhat new to the table, but that's irrelevant since I do have history with this villain.
And what's the effective stack?
350.
Okay.
Yeah, I cover.
Yep.
So open 15, folds 2, villain on the button, who flat. His flatting range, I believe, against me is going to be, pocket pairs. It's going to be suited broadways and like suited aces, and maybe like, ace deuce, 3, 4, 5, 10, jack, queen, king, or queen, like offsuit. His 3-betting range is going to be very narrow, basically ace king up. Maybe jack sometimes, maybe.
Okay.
So he calls. So we go heads up to the flop, and we get a flop of ace of diamonds, 10 of hearts, 8 of clubs.
Okay.
So at this point, I decide to check to him because I, figure if his issue is folding too much, I'm only going to get pretty much 2 streets from him at best. So I'm trying to get, a little bit of extra value from either horse aces that I think he would fold to a double barrel, and from it's like some pocket pairs, 8s, 9s, something like that might call one, or not 8s, but, like 9s, something like that might call 2 streets, hoping I was, bullshitting. So he bets out pot, so 30. So at this point, I decided just to call. I'm not going to raise. Now, when he bets here, I think he pretty much is going to be ace X hands and 2-pair plus. He's not going to bet under pairs. He's not going to bet a 10. He's not going to bet, like queen jack, king jack, something like that.
I mean, my issue here though is that because you're out of position. I understand your logic, but because you're out of position here. Like, this doesn't sound like the type of player that's going to stab at the flop with, like, pocket deuces or pocket threes, right? If you check, he's just going to check it back. If he has an ace, yeah, he's going to bet, but he might shut it down unless you're going to play a check call lead. That's why I would probably just choose to bet this hand against a villain type like this. If he's calling with some Broadway straight draw, like Broadway straight hands like king, queen, or queen, jack. Queen jack, of course, is double gutted on this board. King, queen suited, and king jack are gut shots. Those are hands that very well might check back on the flop that might call a flop bet. So I actually think that you're losing a little bit too much value by checking against a guy that's not really bluffing at it. You know what I mean? Now, if you were to say, well, if I check once, I can get 2 streets from a 10, maybe, but that doesn't really seem consistent with this background.
Correct. Okay.
So move to the turn.
Yep. So turn is, let's see, ace of what, club?
Ace of clubs.
Ace of clubs.
Okay.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And so at this point, I think now I'm kind of more just considering how, if he does have the, trip aces, now it's just how do I break up the stack?
Mm-hmm.
So I decided to check to him. He bet small. He bet 30 again, which I was a little bit surprised. I thought, if he did have like trip aces, he might bet a little bigger.
Sure.
But at the same time, I thought, he would be, he's pretty limited to aces. So I decided to pop it up to 95. That way I could, get a pretty easy river shove on him. So he calls quickly without, too much thought. And then the
Let me just stop
river
you right
was,
here. Let's do
yeah.
some analysis here. This is why sometimes playing a hand in this way actually makes it more difficult to get away from the hand at some point, although it's going to be tough to get away from this hand anyways. But
Right.
people are like, well, why don't you just check call again? And what people don't understand about live poker is that, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Masta, but what I would say about this hand is the problem with check calling to check the river is that some guys will check back a hand as strong as ace five at the end, and they
Right.
also won't bluff.
Right.
So if you give up the betting lead by going check call turn, checking river, that's almost never going to be the right play against typical 1-3 competition in live no limit because they check back far too much with their value hands that are strong to get to showdown. They don't bluff enough, and they're not going to bet like king 10 or pocket jacks for value. Do you see what I'm
Right.
saying? I mean,
Yeah.
if you're playing at like 5-10 or 10-20, and let's say a guy flatted you with pocket kings, maybe he doesn't bet the flop, but if he does, because he thinks that you checked without an ace, and then the ace pairs on the turn, and he bets again, and you call, kings might even value bet the river. Not in a million years at 1-3 will that ever happen. So,
Right.
but on the flip side of that is that you check raise turn here. It sounds to me like that bet on the turn, like you said, is not really consistent with a single paired ace. It's consistent with a hand that is not strong, that's probably not going to call a check raise, or he's very very nutted here, whether it's pocket tens,
Right.
ace 10 or ace 8. So it's a little bit concerning that he's called here. You know what I mean? Because of the turn
Right.
sizing. Now, if you had checked the turn and he had bet like 50 and you had bumped it up to 120, that's great. You just get the money in on the river. It's easy. Or you make it 140. This is a
Right.
little concerning to me because of the small turn sizing followed by the call of the check raise.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so river is jack of spades, which I think is also a bad card for me because, I was kind of thinking that, in hand that maybe I could discount some of the, smaller aces that, maybe he doesn't continue with. So I kind of felt like maybe he was a little bit more closer, like if he has aces, like to some marginal, like premium aces, ace nine, ace jack, ace queen, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I felt in hand the jack was a really bad spot for me. So like where I got caught up was like, now what do I do with such awkward stack sizes? I don't think I can ever bet fold. And then I didn't know if just shoving was a little bit too optimistic. So I was kind of really on the fence about what to do at this point.
Well, the pot has about 300 in it, and the guy has
Yeah.
what, maybe
He
200
has
left?
like right about 200. Yeah.
Uh, I mean, you could check fold. You could check fold. I don't like it. I don't like the way that this hand is really played out. I'm getting a
Yeah.
feeling that you're beat. I mean, it's terrible if he's going to check back ace 3. You know what I mean?
Right.
And if he would value bet an ace, it would be great because you could just check call. But if you check and he shoves, I don't know if you're good here all that much. And again, it's just the weird way that he bet 30 and you made
Yeah.
it 95 and he called. And your characterization of this player. I mean, I don't like to make hero folds and stuff like in no limit at the low stakes at 1-3 where a guy can overvalue an ace. You could bet maybe 125. He's got he has 200 left, something like that.
I think he had like 205 left.
I mean, if he had 300 left, it would be such an easy. You could bet like 135 and fold to a ship. Here, do you think you're good here more than 50% of the time? If you don't, you check. If you do, you bet. I think it's close.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought it was close. So I decided to check.
Mm-hmm.
And then just kind of evaluate the river based on what he did. And if he gave me some stupid sizing, I could just call off and say whatever.
Yeah.
And he actually checked back like immediately.
Mm-hmm.
So he, I showed ace king. He showed ace deuce offsuit.
Ace deuce offsuit. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's kind of weird because of the way that the turn sizing went. That he bet 30 and you raised him, and then he snap called there, and your kickers play. But it just goes to show you how it's better to play. This is the advantage of playing deeper because you can bet for value and fold to a raise because you never know you're not going to get bluffed off. But in this situation, if you say to yourself, I can't fold, then the equation changes. If you're
Right.
not deep enough to bet fold, then sometimes it can become a check because if you're wrong, you're risking 200, right? Instead of risking
Right.
135.
Right.
So some people might be like, oh, this is a bet all day. It might not be if you're not going to fold to a raise. Because you're, like I said, you're risking 200 instead of the 100 or 125. But thanks for the call.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Take it easy.
All right, bye.
All right, let's move along here to 818, the other 818. 818-370, you're up next.
Hey, Bart, how you doing?
Good.
All right, so I got a hand here on 5-5 from Hustler. Effective stacks are 1,200. Villain is on the button, and he covers me.
Oh, you're the guy that sent me the message on the forums.
Yeah.
The other guy said he was. That's funny. All right. So you posted this one up in the forums, right?
Right. Well, I sent this one to you, kind of right while I was on the road, so I didn't.
Oh, okay.
I just want to change the message. I haven't posted it yet.
Okay. Well, all right. Let's go over it.
So Villain's obviously a reg, and he's sitting there with his buddy, and they have pretty big stacks. I've been there for about 2 hours, and I have a pretty loose image.
Mm-hmm.
It folds around to him, and he raises to 25. And I look with Ace Jack of Hearts. I decided to 3-bet him because he's been very aggressive, but kind of playing about 15-20% of hands. I 3-bet to 90.
Mm-hmm.
He thinks about it for a bit, and then 4-bets to 90.
4 bets to how much?
290. And
Okay.
I was debating whether to call or 5-bet, but I didn't think really with this. It's weird. I'm like, if I 5-bet and he shows, I'm gonna have to fold. So
What are the stack sizes?
1,200 effective.
1,200 effective, and you're in position, right?
I'm out of position. I'm small blind. He has a button.
Okay. So he raises 25 on the button here to 90 in the small blind. He him 290, and you decide to call.
I know that he has a bluffing range, a pretty strong bluffing, and he'll definitely do this in his bluffing range. I figured that, so I said, okay, I'm going to call and kind of evaluate how it goes on the flop.
I mean, 200 more, we've talked about this. You are pretty deep. If you think that he's wide as a 4-bet, like he's 4-bet bluffing quite a lot, and you're comfortable continuing on boards that you miss, like when you flop like through to a straight, through to a flush, I think that it's fine. It's very dangerous if you don't play post-flop well. And also, too, if a guy's 4-betting range is like super... This is one of the Brazilians, though, right? I remember you saying that. They're like one of the Brazilian regs. So
yeah,
I would call against a guy that's capable of 4-bet bluffing. It's not necessarily suicide. But you have to understand that you got to continue on some boards.
And that's one of the things is I've definitely been trying to work on my on my post-flop game, and I decided that if I hit any solid draw, that I was going to try and shove it and get it my entire stack in.
I mean, you could. I mean, remember we talked about Conlon and I on the Top Section podcast a few weeks ago. Is that if he makes a small sizing on the flop, the value in your pre-flop holdings, and the reason why we tend to make these sometimes 3-bet bluffs and sometimes calls given pot odds, is the ability for you to continue on some boards even when you don't hit. So, if the board comes out like 9-4-3 with 1 heart and you check and he bets like 150, you can certainly call. You're looking for a 10 in there. That would probably be ideal. Like 10-5 deuce, 1 heart. You know what I mean? Something like that. You don't have to check jam, but you can certainly call.
Well, yeah, I would figure I would call if he made some type of small bet, and then reevaluate on the turn if the turn was good for my range.
Mm-hmm.
Possibly just shove.
So what's the flop?
The flop is ace, jack, 10, 2 spades, the jack and 10 are the spades.
Okay. 4-bet pot.
I decide to check it.
Mm-hmm.
I want to keep him in with his bluffing range, and he checks back.
Okay. So check.
Turn is a 9 of spades.
Okay, so this is where when you sent me this PM on Crush Live Poker, that I thought that this was a little bit where you went wrong. So it's a third spade out there, and now, from what I remember, you decide to check again.
I decided to check again, thinking that if I didn't put spades in his range unless he had ace king of spades, or had some ace five spade blocker that he was trying to forward bet me with, and he got there. So I said, okay, well, if he's got spades, I know I'm pretty dead, but I do want to keep him in with his bluffing range. So I decided to check it back to give him an opportunity to fire, letting him think I was on something like pocket queens or pocket kings or on a hand like that.
Yeah, I just think that like kings and queens for himself and maybe even a weak ace just checks this back one more time. You might get a bet, but again, this actually goes similar to an earlier caller from the show is that, okay, so say he 4-bet you with ace 5 of diamonds, okay? He checks back the flop. Now you check the turn. He bets super small to protect against spades you call, and then it's just going to go check on the river. So that's why I don't mind just going bet here. Because I feel like you're going to get 2 streets from ace X as a 4-bet bluff by going bet on a clean run out, then going check, call, check. That's my thinking.
Okay.
So you check.
I check. He bets 215.
Yeah, see, this is what I'm talking about. So you check. He bets 215. And now you're in a spot where, like, if you check jam, it looks a little bit like an overplay. Tough for you to get called by worse here. And then what are you going to do? You're going to call and now check the river? Is that what the plan is, basically?
Well, pretty much. I mean, with the spade hitting and the potential straight completing, although I don't put him on that, I know it put me in a bad spot. So I did call.
Yep.
And I said, and the plan was to check call the river.
So what's the river?
River is a 6 of clubs. And
Okay.
I check and he jams.
And he moves all in?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that you block pocket aces and you block pocket jacks and the way that you played this hand, you sort of made it look like you might have like queens or kings or something like that. It's going to be very difficult for me to fold here. Occasionally, you might run into like some sort of suited connected spade hand that checked back the flop as a delayed c-bet that made it at the end, but what was the distribution of the flop suits? Do you remember?
The flop was 10 of spades, jack of spades, and then the window was the ace of, I want to say, diamonds.
Okay, so he could have ace X of spades.
Right.
So, I mean, that's a hand, but I just, as played, you played this hand to like feign weakness here. I just can't imagine folding now at the end.
No, I didn't fold him.
Yeah.
I ended up calling, I pretty much snap called him and he insta-mucks.
Okay. So your question is more of turn play and pre-flop?
It was more the turn play.
Yeah. I mean, you probably would have won more than I would have won. Now, I don't know if this guy what hand is he turning into a bluff here? Like, what does he have? Maybe he's just got absolutely nothing. And he was going for a delayed c-bet. I mean, it's possible. I just think that I probably would lean more towards betting the turn. Because if he thinks that you're going to get in ace-king pre-flop, if he's like an aggressive 4-better, then when you bet the turn, you are pretty polarized in the sense that you're not really betting one pair all that much. And guys might go into like hero call mode down. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So.
Okay.
Thanks for the call.
Well, thank you.
All right. Super. All right. Next caller's 347. You're up next out of New York.
What's up, Bart? Let me just give you a little background on me.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yep, I can.
All right. So after college, I grinded 1-3-2-5 in underground games in Queens for about 18 months before getting a real job.
Okay.
And I'm on vacation in San Diego, so I went to the casino out here. And first time I played in about a year.
Okay.
So we have time. We have time for 2 hands.
No,
possibly?
just pick the best one. We got a lot of callers here this week.
All right, best one.
Yeah.
All right, I'll call in next week with the other one.
Okay.
All right, so we're in a limp pot, right? We're in the big blind.
What's the size of the game?
It's a 1-3.
And
the
it's
cap is 100 big blinds, but
okay.
We're 620 effective.
And this is an underground game in New York?
No. I'm actually in California. I'm playing in a casino.
What casino? All right, like LA casino or
San Diego.
Okay.
So, the villain in this hand is a tight female player who's been playing her strong hands very aggressively.
Okay.
So she limps under the gun +1. We get another limper in middle position, a limper on the button. The small blind completes, and I check with pocket 6s.
Okay, so you've got
So
6-6, and you check, so it's about 5 ways, right?
Yeah, it's 5 ways. The flop comes Jack of clubs, 8 of clubs, 6 of diamonds.
Bottom set, okay.
All right. So the small blind checks. I lead out for 10. Villain calls. Middle position calls. Button calls. And the small blind folds.
So 3 callers in the field.
Yes.
Okay.
So now the turn comes. It's the 6 of spades. So we're pretty happy to see that, obviously.
So you make quads.
Yeah.
Okay.
So now I lead out for 30.
I like that, by the way. I mean, it's interesting you said the way that you played this hand. Like, you could go for a check raise on this flop. It's a draw-heavy flop, and you can get some more money in there, too. Or you could lead out. But when the turn comes to 6, I definitely like leading out because, again, you are handcuffed by your position. Similar, I don't know if you heard some of the other callers, because if you just go check call, now you could go check call, lead the river, true, but a lot of times on the turn it might get checked through. And if somebody with the jack bets, how are you going to get more money in? Because if you check raise, they're probably going to fold, although it is 1-3. I guess you could min click up a check raise on the turn, or you could check call and then lead the river. But it sucks to be out of position in low stakes games with nutted hands and try to play it tricky because people don't bet enough on the river. That's kind of the consistency of these hands from this week.
Yeah, when I get strong hands and I'm playing, smaller games.
Yeah.
I tend to play them strong. I don't,
Yeah.
You'll, when I call in next week, you'll see, with the other hand that I played. So, I'm thinking here, we're nutted. Let's try to get more money in. Hopefully we get, multiple callers again and we can build the pot up. That's my thinking. But to my being extremely happy, the villain here raises to 85. So right away, I'm like, yes, boom, we got her. She's got pocket 8s. This is how she's been playing all night. And we're going to try to get all the money in here. So she raises to 85.
And she was UTG, like UTG, right? Or early position?
Yeah, she's UTG +1.
Okay.
So she raises to 85, and already I'm dancing in my head. And middle position folds, button folds, and now I'm just thinking, how are we going to get all this money? So, all right. So like I said, we're 620 effective. She's been playing all her strong hands strong. So now I'm like, all right, we're going to try to get more money in here. I 3-bet it up to 225.
Okay.
Now she thinks for about 30 seconds, giving me a little bit of a stare. I'm hoping that's just Hollywood, and she calls. All right. So now we're going to the river. I'm thinking, yes, we got her. All right. The river, we got about 500 in there, right? And we got about 380, 385 behind.
Let me guess. The river's an 8.
No.
Oh, okay.
The river is the 9 of clubs.
Oh, 9 of clubs. Okay, so it brings in a straight flush.
All right.
Yeah.
So now I'm thinking, perfect. We only lose to one hand, but everything got there. Most of the multi-way draws, club draw got there. I'm still thinking she's got the full house the way this is played. So I'm like, all right, we're gonna put this in. We're gonna go for max value. I shove for 385, and she just goes into the tank. And I'm like, what can she have here? I'm just sitting there hoping that she calls. She winds up folding. She tanks for about 2 minutes and she folds. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, what does she call me with the turn and then folds the river? I was like, should I bet less? Should I, bet 300 instead of all in?
Well, a couple interesting things about the river here. Does that game play with a bad beat jackpot in it? Because usually it does.
I'm not really sure because I was literally just visiting the casino
Because
for
if
one
you
day.
lose, if you get called and you lose, you win the bad beat jackpot.
Right.
So you have to,
You know
I mean,
what? I'm
this
not
is a
sure.
once in career type of situation where I don't think you're ever folding quads, but sometimes you have to be aware of that if you don't have the best hand here, you're going to win a shit ton of money for the bad beat
Yeah.
jackpot. Now, I think
Yeah.
that the discussion here is on the turn whether or not you 3-bet. I
Okay.
would probably tend to just 3-bet a little. See, again, you're at. Well, let's look at the river first. The only thing that I can think
Okay.
of that she might have raised the turn with, she was the first limper, right?
Yeah, she was the first limper.
She might have had pocket aces or pocket kings. That's the only thing
Okay.
that makes sense. Maybe she's got aces.
Okay.
You bet out on the flop. She just called. It's scary. There's many people behind. Now on the turn, you bet out again on the turn. Unless you're full, she probably
Right.
thinks she has the best hand, so she clicks it up. You re-raise, and then she doesn't think that you have a full house because you wouldn't re-raise. And then when the club comes, now she doesn't beat anything. I mean, that's
Right.
the only thing that makes sense to me here.
Okay, I wasn't even thinking pocket aces or pocket kings because literally, like, she sat down with 200. She was playing for about 2 hours,
Mm-hmm.
and every premium hand she had, I mean, she had about 800 in front of her at the start of the hand. Every premium hand she had
Yeah.
was raising up, playing strong. If she hit, she played it strong. So she wasn't playing very tricky, and I was like, you know what I'm trying to say, Bart?
Yeah. Yeah, but I understand
I
what you're
don't know-
saying, but people who don't play hands tricky, just because somebody plays their strong hands strong doesn't mean that they're occasionally not going to throw in a limp re-raise with a big pair.
Okay,
I mean, that's the only thing that makes sense to me is pocket aces, really.
pocket aces. All right.
And I mean, I guess she could have Jack 8 too, Jack 8 suited
Right.
if she's
That was
playing.
the only thing I was thinking. Jack 8, but I was like, can Jack 8 call me when I 3-bet? You know, like,
The more I think about it, the more I like your 3-bet, even though people on the surface
Yeah.
can't believe it. Because the reason why I like your 3-bet, although I might have gone a little bit smaller, is because
Okay.
she's raising with a bunch of people behind her. So when you
Right.
lead the flop and then you lead the turn, she's never going to be light there with 3 people behind her.
right.
Like, she's not going to be raising with some sort of combo draw or raise. You know what I mean? So,
Okay.
and again, if you call and then check the river, she just might check a hand back. You see what I'm
Right.
saying? I'm sure when you 3-bet the turn,
Yeah.
you were just expecting her to shove on you, right?
When I 3-bet, all I'm thinking is when I get called, I either want to get shoved on or I want to be able to bet the river for less than the pot.
Right.
I want to try to get all the money in. That's all I'm thinking.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, it's interesting. Thanks for the call. Appreciate it. Sounds like
All
you're
right,
a first-time
all right.
caller. All right, cool.
Yeah, I'll call
All right.
back next week. Thanks.
All right, bye-bye. All right, Dave from Jersey. Dave, you are on next. Regular caller, Dave. What's going on? Borgata hand, Dave?
I do. It's another PLO hand.
Oh, okay. Cool.
We're doing that transition thing and learning a little bit, I guess.
Okay.
It's more of a concept than the actual hand. It's how the frig do you play aces in PLO?
Did you get to check out our buddy Free Lunch's first PLO transition series video from last week?
I did, yes.
Okay. What did you think?
I liked it.
All right, cool.
I'm anxious for the next one.
All right, super.
Okay. 2-5 PLO.
Yep.
I'm short stacking.
Okay.
So I at this point I have 300 in front of me.
Mhm.
I just changed tables to the main from the must move. So at first orbit, know nothing about the villain except that he's got 3,000 in front of him.
Yep.
The 2-5 there is 200 to 1,000.
Okay.
The villain opens under the gun for 20. One caller in middle position. I'm in the hijack with ace of diamonds, ace of clubs, jack, 9 of diamonds.
So 3 diamonds in your hand,
Right.
but you have suited suited aces.
Suited eight.
So not the worst aces, but not necessarily the best aces. A little bit of connection.
Right.
Uh-huh.
I raise it to 65.
So if he goes 20 call, you could probably raise it to 90, right? Is there a reason why you chose to raise a small?
I've been raising less than pot on non-aces hands, so I want to be consistent.
Okay. You might end up in a very precarious spot. And the reason why I say that, I understand you're trying to balance it, but depending on who opens and who called in between, if you made it 90 and they both called, okay, then you have a very, very easy get it in type of situation on a lot of boards with less than one SPR. Now, it would be against two people, but even if you were to make it 90 and just get one caller, let's say you make it 90 and just the initial raiser calls. Now you're only dealing with one pot size bet left, right? You've got in about a third of your stack, so as a not so experienced PLO player, you can never really make that big of a mistake by just getting it in. If you dick around now with 65 and the guy calls, now the pot's 150, you've got 250 left, and you start to tread that water where you don't know because you just probably haven't done the reps. And even, listen, I don't profess to be an expert PLO player either. I mean, I might have played 1,000 hours live, but you haven't seen the repetitions of what boards am I getting it in for 1.5 pots versus not, because that takes time and it takes playing around with pro poker tools. That would be the reason why I would tend to raise larger. See what I'm saying? Because of the awkward stack sizes. Yeah.
And I guess that was the question I had on the turn, but let's do flop first, I guess.
Okay.
2, 3, 10, spade, diamond.
So did both players call?
No, I'm sorry. Middle one folded, and the original opener called.
Okay, so OP calls. So now you're dealing with a pot of about 160 or 150, right?
A little bit less.
Okay.
This is 140.
140. Well, you made it 65. He called and 20 in the middle.
Right.
Okay.
40, 50, 150. You're right, 150.
So deuce 310, spade.
310, spade.
Okay.
So question here is, I don't have much behind.
Mm-hmm.
Do I go for a bigger bet on the flop and then put be like a half pot on the turn, or do I go for a smaller bet on the flop and shove the turn on a clean run out?
Well, you have about 240 left in your stack, right? Or 230.
Right.
And the pot's 150, and it's 10 deuce 310. So even though you're just starting in PLO is a form of hold'em, and you can do a range analysis just like you can in No Limit, right? So do you think that this board is going to connect with a Villain 1's opening caller to a 3-bet range all that much?
I would have thought not.
Right, but you can't. It's not like No Limit where you can dick around really with bet sizing. Just bet. Whatever you want to bet at least 80% of the pot. You're betting to get this in. I'm not going to fold here on this board. Do you see what I'm saying?
Okay.
And you want to deny equity. Now, the guy, if he thinks that you have aces and he has a 10 if he has a pair of 10s and 3 other cards that aren't pairs, he probably should go with his hand, right? Especially if he doesn't have 2 aces in his hand. So let's say he's got king, queen, jack, 10. Obviously, if he's got a flush draw, he's going to go with it. But a backdoor flush draw, king, queen, jack, 10 is probably enough to go with it because the pot's 150. You've got about 250 left. So let's just treat your bet as an all-in. So the pot would be about 400, 250 for him to call. He's getting over 1.5 to 1. He probably only needs about 38 or 39% equity. If he's got a 10 and 3 unpaired side cards, that's what? 3, 6, 9, 12 outs, right? That's 12 outs with 2 cards to come. I mean, we know that from Hold'em. He's gonna get it in. So you just bet call, and I would bet large. I wouldn't dick around with bet sizing really here.
Okay, big help.
Yeah.
I did it the other way. I bet like 100 on the turn.
100 on the flop.
Sorry. Yeah. Then put the rest in on a queen of club turn.
Ooh, so you bet 100. He called.
Correct.
So now the pot's 350, and the turn is a queen. Did it bring a backdoor flush draw or anything?
No.
So queen X. Now you have about 150 left. So yeah, you're gonna see. Obviously, you can't really fold now. I mean, he might have queen 10, obviously, but you've picked up a straight draw now too, right? With ace jack 9, so you're not going anywhere.
Right.
But it sounds to me like maybe this turned out bad for you, and I would just bet larger on the flop. What ended up happening? You checked the turn, you moved all in, and he called?
Yeah, and river was a 6 of clubs.
Okay.
And I've in this session I had about 8 pocket aces and played them all differently to try to figure out which is the right way.
So he calls all in on the turn, right? You guys don't do any business or anything?
We didn't on this particular hand.
Mm-hmm. And what happened? What did he turn over?
He rivered a straight. He had 4-5.
He had 4-5. Did you see what his other 2 cards were?
I I saw one of them. The other one was underneath, and I was on the other side of the table. It was 3-4-5X.
Oh my God. Well, you got to tag that guy as someone who doesn't really know that much about PLO if he's opening with that hand from up front and calling a 3-bet.
Yep.
You know what I mean? You know, if this is full ring PLO, right?
9-handed, right? Yes.
He's opening 3-4-5X, and it probably wasn't an ace.
Correct. I don't believe it was.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
Yeah, I know. I mean, there's
But
a
the
lot
thing
of
you have to understand, though, Dave, that you have to wrap your head around, and it took me a while too, is that different from No Limit, and I know you play a lot of No Limit, PLO is less about value and more about equity denial. Okay? Because say he's got a hand like, this isn't the best example of this, but let's say that this guy was squeezed in between, like maybe the pot went 3 ways, and you bet out here. And let's say that the guy had like a hand like Jack 9, 8, 7 with Jack high spades. Okay? Something like that. Depending on how much money you have, he could be correct to call you with your specific hand because he has a flush draw. But he's forced to fold because he has to worry about the other guy. Do you see what I'm saying? Because there's another guy behind him. He can't call with a jack high flush draw when you're betting pot on the flop because someone can have a higher flush draw. So bringing that back to this particular example, you just want him to fold. You want him because you can't be that far ahead with ace, ace, jack 9 on 10, deuce 3, right? You just can't be that far ahead. Like, what if he had king 3, 5, 6? You would never think that a guy would have that opening from early position and then calling a 3-bet. But I would say that king 3, 5, 6 with a backdoor flush draw probably has 38, 39% equity, which is a pair, a gutter, and a backdoor flush draw against your dry aces. But he won't call, so you want him to fold. You want him to fold out his equity. That's the name of PLO. That's the name of the game. Okay?
Very good.
All right. Thanks, Dave. All right. Last caller here. Thank you, 210. Oh, no. 210, call back. I'm unlocking
Conference unlocked.
I'm unlocking the conference just for the guy from 210 because...
Hey, Bart, are you there?
Yeah, is this 210? All right, cool. Yeah.
Yes.
All right, hold on 1 second. I know you were on the air. I didn't want to disrupt. I didn't want to let you go. All right, so 210, you are our last caller.
Cool. All right, so this is from yesterday. I had it's a 1-2 cash game.
Okay.
$5 straddle on the button.
Okay.
I am in the small blind with king, queen of spades.
And what are the stack sizes?
175 effective, and that's me.
Okay. So it's pretty short here with this straddle.
Yeah, I had lost a little bit right before this. Not much, but I started with 200.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so I'm at 175. Under the gun +2, who is the villain in the hand. He just limps the $5.
So it doesn't go in order? You're not first, or you limped in the small blind?
No, I'm in the small blind. I'm second to last to act, or third to last to act. I take it back.
It doesn't go in order with the straddle on the button? Because in LA, the small blind's first to act.
No, it starts under the gun still.
Okay.
So folds around to under the gun +2. He limps for $5. Mm-hmm. The guy next to him, middle position 1, limps as well.
Okay.
Everyone else folds to me. It skips over the button. I raise it to 18. The under the gun +2 calls, and everybody else. No, I take that. And middle position 1 calls as well, the 18, and then the button folds.
So the button has absolute last action, right?
Yeah, unless there's like 2 raises in front of him, then he doesn't.
Okay, so the pot's about $60, and you're in the... Okay.
He won.
Yep.
Flop comes queen of hearts, 6 of hearts, 6 of diamonds.
Queen of hearts, 6 of hearts, 6 of diamonds. Okay.
I don't think about it too long. In fact, I probably should have thought about it a little longer. I bet 25. I had a $25 chip, so I just bet that.
Okay.
Looking back at it now, I think I probably should have bet more like 35 or something. But anyway.
I actually don't. I mean, it might be an accident, but it's not a bad bet size because you only have about 150 left. You could easily get money, and you want to make it look like you might have missed with ace king. You probably wouldn't think that these guys would.
Exactly.
You probably wouldn't think
Exactly.
that these guys would have ace queen. They would probably raise themselves. So
Exactly.
there's a very good chance that you have the best hand here, unless someone has a 6.
Under the gun +2. Asks me how much do I have behind. I tell him 132.
Okay.
He bets 125.
So he basically raises to 125.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then MP1 folds, and it's to me. And then I just go over the hands that he could have in my mind. Just the same thing: ace queen, ace king. He would have raised pre-flop. Pocket kings, pocket aces, queens. He would have. Well, he couldn't. Well, yeah. Not likely he has queen.
Well, let's say that we dismiss ace queen. Let's dismiss that, okay? Right. So what are the two hands that he might have here? The two types of hands that he might have here that's raising on the flop?
Ace high, hearts, like ace rag of hearts.
Mm-hmm.
He could have like queen jack. He could have like ace 6. Pocket sixes would be destroying me. That's possible too.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, I'm kind of leaning towards saying it's a flush draw or a 6. Do you? Do people overplay top pair that much where he would just go with queen jack? Because again, even though you accidentally made a small bet, even though I actually don't mind the bet sizing. A lot of times when you make a bet that's so small at the lower stakes, because people don't see those types of bets because everyone bets large to protect, they might think that you're weak. So if you think that this guy would ever raise to get it in with any queen, then this is a snap call. If you think that he would raise with queen jack or queen 10 here, it's not even close.
Okay. I didn't take too long with it. I just put those hands, figured out that he didn't have them, and then I decided to call. And
hold on a second. Before you give it a reveal, let's say, for example, we'll do some stove in our head, which I've done on the podcast on Crush Live Poker before. Let's say that he has some 6s and he has, say, some flush draws. Let's say that there's an even combination of just real basic. Let's say that when he turns over his hand, 10 times he's going to have trip 6s and 10 times he's going to have a flush draw. Okay? What do you think your equity is against even combinations of flush draws and trip 6s? Do you think you can try to work that in your head? We can go step by step. What do you think? What do you think that your equity is against, say, like the nut flush draw? How many outs does he have?
He would have like 35%, so I would be at 65% on that.
I think he actually would probably have a little bit more because he has an overcard. So
yeah, you're right.
It would probably be like close to 40%.
12 outs. Yeah.
So let's say he's got 40% with a nut flush draw. And again, I realize he might have other flush draws, but I'm just doing this for exercise. And what's your equity against trip 6s?
If he has trip 6s, I need a queen, basically, and that's about it, right?
You've got you have some backdoor ability for like backdoor king. So if you were to just multiply 2 outs times 4, what would you get?
8.
8, okay. So to make it really easy, because you do have some backdoor equity, let's say that you have 10% equity, okay? So you have 10% equity against a 6, and you have how much against a flush draw?
65, or no,
60.
We said less. Like 50.
60.
60, okay, yeah.
Just to make it easy, right? 60, okay?
Right.
So how do we figure out the equity? Half the time you have 60, half the time you have 10. How do we figure out the equity?
You would just average it, so
right.
It'd be like 35%.
35%, and doesn't that equate to some pot odds that we know of that's really easy? 35%, what does that equate to in pot odds?
2 to 1.
2 to 1. 2 to 1. 35% is equal to about 2 to 1, right?
Right.
So when you bet 25 into 60, and he basically puts you all in for, what did we say, 150 total?
He said 125, and then I just put in the last 7, and then he called, of course.
All right, so you had let's say that you started the start of the flop with 130, okay? So you bet 25, now the pot's 85. Now he raised...
Well, no, I had 152 to start the flop.
Okay, 150. All right, let's say it's 150. Okay, so you bet 25, so now the pot's 185, okay? And now once he calls the 25, that it's 110, and he's raising you 125 more. So the pot is about 235, 125 for you to call. So it's really, really close if it's just half and half. But do you see why it becomes a slam dunk call if he has any queens, though? Because you're ahead of those.
Right, exactly.
So it's very close to a call if half the time he has a 6 and half the time he's got the nut flush draw. That was a really dirty, easy way to do it. But if he's got lower flush draws, I mean, if he has a lower flush draw, you're more like 70 or 75% against that.
Right.
So I think it's a pretty slam dunk call. What did he end up having?
I didn't see. He mugged.
Okay.
The river, it ran out blank. It was like 4 diamonds and then like a 9 or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I turned over my hand and I was good. He claimed he had ace high hearts, so
okay.
he was on flush draw.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense.
So it was. I don't know. I didn't think it was such a slam dunk call. I thought it was like a huge hero call, and I thought you were gonna ream me.
No, once you tell me that he might overplay a queen, and once you kind of make a live misclick where your sizing was a little bit small, and a guy might think that you're just weak and he's going to go with any queen, it's a slam dunk call, because it's very close if he has the nut flush draw half the time and the 6 half the time, right? So with any queen, it's a slam dunk call, and we dismiss ace queen. So that's how you go through the hand reading and doing equity and stuff in your head. So okay,
nice, great.
All right,
thanks,
cool.
Mark.
Thanks for the call. All right, guys, that's going to wrap it up. Thank you guys for checking us out. And we will do this again next Monday at 4:45 Pacific time. And we have 2 more Crush Live call-in shows left before the World Series of Poker. And we go on about a 6 to 8 week hiatus like we did last year, because obviously I can't do the call-in show during the World Series of Poker. So we'll see you guys next week. Bye-bye.